cutting, that kind of stuff.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. So all of those areas, the basic fundamental concepts that I work with work in all industries at all levels, no matter how commoditized the business is. So it's been a tremendously powerful tool. It's gotten a lot of international recognition outside of our industry. Most of the folks that are on the call know that I've been involved with the Profit First program for a number of years now. We've got 1,500 people in the Profit First for Screen Printing group on Facebook. And that's an open group for anybody that wants to improve their profitability and cash flow. It's free. So really, I'm on a mission right now to help companies stabilize themselves, prepare themselves for when they decide that they're ready to exit. I mean, I look at the people that are on our call here today. We're mostly OG gray hairs, no hairs, the old guys in the industry. And, if we look back and said, if we look back in retrospect, I think almost all of us would say we should have spent more time preparing for our retirement, putting more away, making better investments, doing all that kind of stuff. But be that as it may, we are where we are. And now it's time for us to do what we can. And from my standpoint, to help the people that are still in the industry and to help the new folks that are coming into the industry to make better decisions right at the very beginning.
Yeah, I think you're right about we didn't look forward years ago to the fact that we may have to retire someday. And certainly I did. I mean, I'm definitely one of those who kind of live for the moment. And as I get older, and I think I'm a bit older than you, without a doubt, the idea of retiring doesn't even come into play because I just can't afford to retire.
Well, not only can we not afford to retire, but we're basically creative problem solvers. And we've been in this up to our eyeballs for 50 years. I mean, my company, I started it when I was 19. It'll be 48 years old in 2 weeks. And we're still, outsourcing production to other printers. And I find it really interesting that the printers that I'm using, they're getting more out of this deal than I am. They get free consulting out of it because I need them to be competent enough to do my work. So they get a lot of free on-site consulting to get my job done right. So I don't know how well that works out, but it is what it is.
I think that's part of what you have to deal with. I mean, I go into shops to just see what's going on and to keep my fingers in what is happening. And of course, you have the desire to make sure that they're doing things the right way. So even though they haven't hired you, you still have to kind of stick your fingers in their work and tell them what they need to tweak and stuff.
Well, it's interesting, Charlie. I remember when we first got going with SGIA, in the late 70s and the early 80s. And we were the long-haired, dope-smoking hippies, and we were not welcome. And I had more than one old timer tell me that, they were disgusted that they were allowing the t-shirt people to come into the industry and wreck it. And, and I looked at the stuff the t-shirt people were doing, and, it was pretty freewheeling. And, it's the way youth is. Youth is counterculture. Youth is revolutionary. Youth is going to discover on their own how the world works.
So you don't think, sorry, no, go ahead.
We definitely broke the mold. I had one guy tell me, really belligerent, and came up to me and said, you're ruining this industry. You're sharing all the trade secrets. Where's the sanctity? We've created generations of this knowledge, and we hold it in this fraternity. And I said, well, this is not the Masonic Lodge, right? Which is the stonemasons. That's how the Masons were formed, is that they had trade secrets. And the Mason symbol was the symbol that you were in the trade and that the secrets of the Masons. And so I said, this isn't the Masonic Lodge. You realize that the world is moving forward, that technology is changing. And if we hold on to that technology, we're just holding ourselves back. So I looked at the fact that has driven me from day one. And literally from the moment that I made the decision to change from mechanical engineering to printing engineering, I had a better potential to make a difference in an industry like screen printing, which was transitioning to a more process oriented as opposed to craft oriented industry than if I became an aeronautical engineer designing parts that would end up in the tail of a jet at 50,000 feet. And my goal from day one was to find a better way and share it. And I've made it my mission to do that. And a lot of people have been critical about that. A lot of people have shared in that benefit and have moved forward. And you know, those were the choices that I made, and I don't regret any of it. I look back and look at the number of lives that you and I and Richard and Bill and Andy Anderson and all of the people that have been willing to share with the industry have made. Scott Fresner, you know, everybody. We've shared what we learned, and we didn't hold it for our own personal benefit.
True. So you're telling me that you really weren't a big fan of Gene Kropinski.
But gee.
Oh,
That name's familiar.
So the thing that I remember, first of all, I remember when you and I met, and Joni was your art director, and I worked with her on simulated process.
Right.
Without a flash. But I couldn't tell you if that was 77 or 78. Huh?
Flashes had not been invented yet, and the only way
no, that didn't come till the early 80s.
The only way you could get opacity was with lead, chrome, molybdenum, arsenic, you know, all the heavy metal based inks that are like mercury based, all those inks that will kill us all. I mean, look at you.
Oh, absolutely. But
we're all bald. That should tell us something, right?
Exactly. So you're telling me that your wife is bald? No, come on.
Well, she never got into the inks. Away from it.
I remember I was asked to speak at the Texans in 1980 in Pittsburgh.
Right.
And the word was that Gene Kropinski and others were there to dispute everything I had to say. So I remember I did my King Tut, and I remember I gave you a small set of film positives of it. And everyone who came in was handed a black Pellon with the image on it.
Right.
I did my song and dance, which I was petrified because I had never dealt with so many people. I had never dealt with a crowd at all. But I was waiting for questions at the end or for someone to come up and dispute what I had to say. And nobody did because it was in their hands, you know, and it was like, what are you going to say? You can't do that when you're holding it. So that was my little interaction with Gene Kropinski, was that minor thing. And at that point, I kind of decided, you know what? You are really old and you really need to get out of this industry because what you have to offer was bullshit. And oh yes, you work for Advanced Process Supply. Oh, sorry about that. But and I totally agree with you. We were the ones who were definitely innovators, and we were willing to share. And that was something that I remember going to the first textile division meetings at the SPA show, and they would go to midnight, you know, because everybody was excited. And of course, we didn't have interaction during the course of the year. It was a one-shot deal. And everyone was willing to share what they had. And certainly some people did take advantage of it, and others were kind of baffled by it. But at the same time, we didn't play the game of, oh, this is a secret and I'm not telling you, or you have to hire me to get this information. That's crap. Yes, there's a difference between having hired someone and going in and taking them by the hand through a process, or talking about it on a seminar level. And to me, those are two very, very different things. Seminars are generalized because you're not talking about anyone's specific situation. And then consulting is you're in someone's place and you are definitely focused on where they are and what they're doing and how to straighten out those issues.
Yeah, definitely problem solving. So it's interesting, you know, Bill was classically trained in offset lithography, and you know, my background is in basically the imaging sciences. So it's any type of transfer from a printing press, an image from a printing press to a substrate. So it could be foil, plastic, ceramic, fabric, wood, paper, didn't really matter. And it was really about the science behind that. And that was my perspective. And my senior thesis in 1975 was limitations of halftone screen printing to 85 LPI. And so that was the first linearization, the first printing of grayscales, and the first measurement of grayscales with an analog densitometer, which was really a pain in the neck to read. There was nothing digital about it. We had to take a number and convert it to percentages, and there was a lot of math involved, and it would never fly in our industry. But because we understood halftones and we understood the camera making process, the imaging process, image assembly, which was called stripping, totally non-PC today, but we worked in the stripping department. And so we were able, you know, we understood what all these different exposures meant and all these different ways of doing multiple pin registration burns and all these different kinds of things that were completely foreign to our industry. And so Bill will appreciate this. The very first ISS show, Bill Windsor put the show on in May of 1978 in Dallas. And I was one of the speakers, and they asked me to present, and the room was like 700 people. It was huge. And it was to talk about, you know, halftone screen printing. And so I talked for 45 minutes about, you know, halftone 4-color process and, you know, the angles that you use and all this kind of stuff. And at the very end, I asked for questions, and this one good old boy stood up and in his very best Southern accent, his very best Texas accent, he said, "Well, first of all, I printed 3 colors before, but never 4. And second of all, what's this dot y'all are talking about?" And I thought, holy crap, I'm in way over their head. And at that point, it was like, we need to bring it way, way down to the fundamental level because, you know, there was just, we were still using silk in those days. There were still 12XX and 10XX and 16XX silk frames, silk screen frames. And go ahead.
To this day, I have never seen silk. I did work with.
Oh, you're kidding. Hang on.
I worked with.
Hang on. Stay still.
Multi-filament polyester all the time, but never silk. He's going to bring me a set of stockings that he stole off of a woman from the 1940s. Stretched it on his screen.
I used for flags.
This
12XX.
is a hand-cut silk screen frame from 1970. It's a 12XX on, I can't remember what the actual film name of the film was, but it was lacquer-based film with water-based lockout. And it's still actually got a little bit of tension to it, maybe like 10 Newtons. But yeah, that was all hand cut. I cut that by hand with an X-Acto knife and Letraset film on paper. But this was one of my very first screens. This screen is over 50 years old. So it's like definitely out of the archive. In the back, cord and groove. Excellent.
You know, I tried that. I kept splitting my frames. But what I do have, Mark, and I don't know if you have it, I have the brochure from the first ISS show.
Wow.
And it has you in it.
Wow.
And I also have the show program. So the brochure has nothing to, it's just all photos. But then I also have the show program. And the funny thing is, I didn't go to that show, my partner did. And so that I missed that one, but I've made every show since then.
Wow, I've missed a few in the middle. But I feel like I've been dissed here lately. So I think I'm done with ISS.
I'm not too far behind, but who knows? Still speaking, but I'm still speaking for them, but I haven't written an article for them in so long that I kind of, well, like everything else, things go through changes. And there are those young and up and coming individuals, Charles being one of those,
Right.
but no, huh? But
It's just such a relative thing. And, you know, it's what they're doing to attract the audience that they're trying to attract. And we're not the audience they're trying to attract. They're trying to attract young, diversity, inclusive diversity, BIPOC. I don't even know all the
I don't
abbreviations
either.
stuff, but I said, I can't help you in that department. I mean, I can tell you how to do the things. I can tell you how to make money. I can show you the technical aspects behind why things work and don't work, but I don't know anything about the social side of things. That wasn't the area that I wanted to spend my attention with.
I don't know. I think that they should have a grandfather's portion of the magazine,
I don't
or
know.
at least the old man's, the older folks portion.
The OG portion.
Yeah. The problem with that is none of us can remember what we were talking about. So if we start to write it and we lose track of it.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting, but I know that I'm busier now than I've ever been. I have more interactions, more connections with people. You know, the whole COVID thing has redefined the way we do business and how we do business. And it's exciting. It's really
Good for
opened
you.
up a lot of really cool new things. So I'm doing works now that I never ever would have thought that I was do the work that I'm doing right now. And it has huge potential for where we're going, the industry as a whole, but they're not interested in going that way. So I'll share it with other folks, or share it with the people that want to see it inside of, you know, Facebook or wherever. But it ain't going to be at the shows, and it ain't going to be in the magazines. I can tell you that.
Well, are you writing for any of the magazines at all?
I've offered.
Yeah, so have I. Haven't had much in the way of, I've had plenty of companies from overseas say, yeah, that's okay. But as far as the US companies, not happening here.
Yeah.
Overseas is still,
Well, that's a shame.
huh?
It's a shame.
Yep, loss.
You know,
It is. I mean, you know, the amount of time and effort. One of the things that I've been spending a great deal of time on since 2016 is machine learning and artificial intelligence. I'm having a tremendous amount of success on the AI side right now. And what I'm doing is I've taken all of my writing and I've input it into the machine learning software. And so it learns how I write and how I speak and basically how I communicate. And using the open AI model that's from Elon Musk, it speeds up the writing and the transfer of information by a factor of about 10. It takes everything the way that I write, and I put in my outline of what I want to do, and it literally completes it for me. And then I go back in and add little tidbits here and there, but it's so good that you don't even know that it hasn't been written by a person. And I don't know if it, you know, if it has, you know, if it really has been written by a machine, because it's emulating who you are. It's your voice. And you know, typically when I would do a magazine article or a column, a 1,500 word column would take anywhere from 4 to 5 hours to do it. I
Yep.
can do a 1,500 word column now in about 20 minutes. So it gives me the ability now to take a lot of the ideas and things that I'm working on and put them together in the form of, you know, of real books, you know, a real book to publish. I've got outlines for 4 books right now. So I think what I may end up doing is just taking some of this time off and complete the information, you know, in book form and publish the books. Because I know there's a lot of people that want it.
yeah, I'm in the midst of playing with 2 books myself right now, only because of COVID. I mean, it's one of those things that if you're sitting home got to do something. And if I don't do something constructive, my wife will find something for me to do that I don't want to do. So better to read writing. So I've got one that's a technical book, but the other one is kind of my years in screen printing.
Right.
And so I do have you in there, obviously, since you and I go back. So your first show, my first SPA show was 1977 in Anaheim.
Right. My first show was 76 in New
New
Orleans.
Orleans,
Okay. Bill, when
Yep.
was your first show?
New Orleans.
In 76.
Yep.
Okay.
So that New Orleans show,
It was in a ballroom in the Hyatt Hotel. And
Yep.
it wasn't even supposed to have equipment in it. The forklifts were breaking the floor. It was quite a mess. And
What?
they had fun.
Well, 77 was at the Disneyland Hotel in Anaheim.
right.
And I don't know if they broke the floors or not, but they did have equipment there. And it was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Right.
In today's world, it's smaller than the smallest DAC show. I mean, it probably took a half hour to go through the whole show if you stopped at every booth.
The shows went through some strange gyrations. I liked it when a couple of booths started having these fine-looking women, and
You're
those
talking about
booths,
the flippy flyer girls back
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the-
There you go.
those booths did so well that the following year, every single booth had a 3
Yeah.
or 4 hot women, and then the British Bulldog or British, what was her name?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
it was the
printed underwear.
the transfer company,
Yeah.
Target Transfers.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you got
And then-
girls walking the aisle in their underwear, and I mean nobody got anything done. I mean, they all had fun, but there wasn't anything screen printing about it. So, but they kind of did away with that. So got back to business, and then there was the year that China thought they was going to come copy all the equipment. You couldn't even run the equipment because you'd go to turn the machine on and there was like 50 Chinese guys with cameras laying on the floor and hanging in the machine. And they took pictures of every nut and bolt on every machine in that building. And they came back the next couple of years with machines and then they went away. Strange.
Still making them in China and selling them in China, though.
Yeah. Oh, I'm
You know,
sure.
it's funny. I went to a show in China. I did a show in China. I don't know, it's got to be about 5-6 years ago. And MHM sent the machine and it got stuck in customs. And so it never got to the floor. There was another machine, a Chinese machine on the floor that was identical to MHM, including colors, other than the fact that it didn't say MHM. So I went over to guys from MHM. I said, look, here's a smart thing to do. Anybody who's interested in MHM, take them over to show them the Chinese machine. And at least this way they have an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah,
Oh,
they
well.
aren't scared to copy anything.
Now, they do make a couple of things that are pretty good. Their digital squeegee, quote unquote, obviously seems to work extremely well, but that's one of very few companies that are on the innovative side.
I don't know if it's the same company that makes a digital squeegee, but the laser exposure units are all Chinese also.
Yeah,
Are they all Chinese?
Yes.
Could very well be. It was CN Top that made the digital squeegees. And I know M&R, I'm sure, is the one that's in connection with them.
Yeah.
That's why you don't have CN Top selling directly into the US, because everything is going through M&R.
I
But
wonder
when you
who's,
go overseas, you'll see, you'll go, the factories I've gone into in Bangladesh and Sri Lanka all have CN Top machines because they can buy them for a lot less. And the ink there is so cheap, it's ridiculous. I went into a shop that had done a 400,000 piece order using their digital squeegee. And I said, why would you do it that way when you could screen print it? I mean, this is a shop with 30 automatics. I said, I don't understand why you did it digitally where the cost of the ink is so high. And he said, well, I did the arithmetic and the number of people I would need and the ink that I would use versus going this way was much less. And I said, I don't understand. How much did it cost you per print? They figured with everything, with labor and the ink and all, 25 cents a print. And I said, yep, you're right. Because as soon as, even though labor is inexpensive and stuff, the cost of the ink, the cost of labor, et cetera, and the number of people he would need to get 400,000 pieces out inside of a month, be crazy. In the US, you can't do that. You could never get that print done for a quarter.
Oh, no.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you couldn't get, the ink itself would be, even though the ink on digital squeegee is so much less, it's probably still double that in terms of what the cost on the garment is for just the ink.
No, on digital right now, it's $4 plus on a black shirt, one shirt. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Well, so in digging through my basement, Richard, I don't know if you want the brochure that I just mentioned from the imprinted sportswear show, the very first one that has Mr. Coudray in it.
So
I think that was before your day, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. I started in Chicago, 80, 81. I forget what year.
Okay. Well, I can certainly send you that I have, and I've got a lot of the brochure. I don't know, do you want all of the show programs from the early ISS shows?
I'd be happy to scan them and be archived forever.
Well,
So since
I
we're
can
on the way, we're in the way, but bring some archive here that you update from 4 years ago.
Oh.
Familiar?
Oh, yeah.
there you go.
And then the last one in the series, which is one that was used in Control Without Confusion. This was the bat. That was 80.
Right.
That was 85 line. I think both of them were 85 line.
That'd have been print.
Yeah, this was interesting because we got the steps back from Fred and they were raw. They were just the negatives. They had to be, the backgrounds needed to get knocked out. You know, the borders needed to be applied. And the timing for the magazine was so tight that I got the film at 10 o'clock in the morning by UPS. And I took it directly into the dark room and did all the knockouts and the positives. We burned the screens, and the first shirts came off on wooden frames at 2:30, and they went directly into FedEx to Joe for the article. So it was literally a 4-hour turnaround from when we got the negs before we even had to do the compositing and the screens and everything else. So it was a classic example of processes in place. This is why you can do things quick, is because it's predictable. It's, you know, it's consistent, predictable, and repeatable. But yeah, it still looks pretty good for 40 years, wouldn't you say?
Yep.
Yeah, I have one of those that you did at one of the shows and still have that.
That would be the Gila Monster. That was in '96. That's the only time we ever printed it live at a show.
Well, I have one of those. Unfortunately, they put a forklift through my crate, so they hit all my cyanoacrylate. So the collar
Little
had to be
stiff.
cut away, but I still have the print.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, amazing. You know, it's funny when you look back at some of those early shirts, they were definitely on the raw side for some of them, but some of them were really pretty awesome and could easily fit in today's market.
Well, I know technically that these shirts today, 40 plus years later, absolutely wouldn't stand up to anything that's out there.
Well, there's still people out there today that couldn't even come close to printing it.
Exactly.
Part of it is everybody today has a computer, and so they feel that they can do the separations on their computer, and it's like, of course you can. And if all you wanted was a raw 4-color process job, I understand that, and you can definitely do that. But if you want something that's really high quality, the chances of getting it off of your computer are pretty minute.
Well, the screen making today is such a step back. You know, unless you're using laser direct to screen, the iJet, iJet inkjet, the wax is the only thing that is reasonably close, and it's not even as good. You know, it's even at 900 LPI. When we were bringing film off of our drum scanner, we were at 12,000 DPI. So you got a really good round dot, and a really well-shaped dot without all the little artifacts and things hanging off the edge.
Yeah.
But today's iJet and all the other ones that are out there, you look at it under a loop, they're really pretty ragged. Pretty ragged.
Back in the late 80s, I consulted two young kids fresh out of college they had a little manual printer and a little dryer and stuff, and they were so hungry. I mean, these kids wanted to learn so bad, and I worked with them, and they came down to my little shop, and I mean, I just worked with them. Well, they ended up growing a little bit, and then they split, and one went one way and one went another. Well, the one is in Maumelle, Arkansas, near Little Rock, and I 6 months ago. I've never seen a shop like that. It is just straight out of the future. I mean, I have never seen so much equipment as far as he had two of those screen makers, the lasers.
Mhm.
He had automatic reclaimers. I've never seen so much automation. I bet he had $10 million worth of equipment. It was unbelievable. Wow. But to watch two kids just hungry with a manual printer and then end up with this just state-of-the-art facility pumping out just gorgeous work was really impressive. You know, there are some out there that can do it. And I guess if you want it bad enough. And they obviously wanted it bad because, man, I tell you what, it takes a lot to impress me in a print shop. I mean, I think I had my mouth open the whole time I was in there.
I'd be really curious to see if they're making any money.
I believe he is. He weathered the COVID real well, because when I went in there, it was kind of right near the end, people, everything was running.
Cool.
Well,
there's no shortage of work, that's for dang sure. There's tons of work out there right now. Everybody's laid off their weak employees. All the ones that are weak are still hanging on for unemployment so they can get that extra $300 a week or whatever it is now. So there's tons of work. There's not enough good employees that are knowledgeable and can do a good job. So there's this big gap.
I've never seen so many help wanted signs in my life, ever.
It's crazy. LA right now, I was talking with some printers last week, construction cleanup, on-site construction cleanup, $25 an hour.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, why would you catch shirts when you could be outside picking up 2x4s? And I mean, 2x4s, the cost of lumber today, probably build another house for the value of the scrap wood they're picking up.
Yep.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing is with a lot of the newer printers, it's kind of, so nowadays, the only thing you have to do to become a really good printer is you have to watch YouTube and maybe take a seminar, and you too can be a fantastic printer. And of course, you go on YouTube, and there's definitely some good information. There is so much bad information that it's amazing.
Well, that's the problem with the internet, is that everybody's a publisher now. So
Yes.
there's no
Everybody's brilliant.
There's no vetting of it. So if you've got something up there, you might as well, by all intents and purposes, if you've never seen it before, then you are an expert.
All you need is a vinyl cutter and a heat press.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. It's too
Silhouette
bad.
cameo.
It's too bad. The fun part of this industry from way back was actually doing some experimenting and developing techniques and procedures of your own. And in today's world, everybody wants to just watch a video and thinks that they have the answer. I judged some of the Skills USA stuff yesterday, and they were talking to, and of course, these are very young and they're students, and so you don't expect to get great stuff out of them. But even some of the very basic stuff, you wonder who the hell is teaching these kids, because whatever they're teaching them, they're missing the mark on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
And these are the ones that are going to be going back into the field.
Well, for 27 years, I was on the advisory board to the university at Cal Poly, to the printing department there, to help them design curriculum to graduate students that would be desirable to the graphic communication industry. And I resigned my position last year in January because they told us that they can no longer teach the incoming students in the way that we learned, because being all digital natives, growing up in a world of digital screens from their childhood, from birth, that their documented attention span is 8 seconds. Scroll left, scroll right, scroll up, text. I mean, it's just the attention span is like squirrel everywhere. So I'm thinking, how can you have any critical thinking skills if you have such a short attention span? And the agendas in terms of what they were focusing on as important to me was not related to the aspects of what these people were going to be producing or managing when they got out of school. It was all other social issues. And so I said, you know what? You don't need an OG white guy. The fact that I'm an old white guy is not in alignment with where your thinking is right now and where you want to go. So you need to get people in here that can relate to where you're headed when this generation is coming. I don't want to hold anybody back. So I said, my time's over. And it is what it is. Everybody, there's a sunset for everything.
For those things. So it looks like Andy is finally getting on.
Let's see
Of course.
his face.
Andy, we don't have any visual on you yet, but I see that you're on.
Okay. Is it on now?
No, it's on. There it is.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not
Is that
unless you're in a very
upstairs?
dark
Is your
room.
office upstairs or downstairs?
Is yours on though, Charlie? Can you see?
I can, I'm on, there you are.
Yeah,
We got you now.
okay.
How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. How about you guys?
We're waiting patiently for you.
I had people in here that just left, so I know it's been a long morning.
Are you downstairs, Andy, or is that your
I
office?
am, yeah, I'm in the
Oh.
shop. Office in the back corner.
Oh, wow.
Can't you see all this crap behind?
I know it fooled me. It looks like your other office.
It's all the same stuff.
That's what I couldn't figure it out.
Just took one and moved it down. I've even got the same, underwater photos, up
Yeah.
there on the wall.
Yeah.
It's all the same. So what have you guys been talking about?
We were talking about you, but now that you're on, we can't talk about you anymore.
Okay, that's cool. You want me to leave?
Actually, I want you to come on in 2 weeks and be the guest.
Well, I know. It's I've got too much going on where I can't
All
get
right.
to you right now.
Well, I'll hit on you again later.
I know.
We were just talking, well, Mark was definitely spending some time on what he's up to and
Yeah,
just generalized stuff, nothing
Nothing radical.
to lose sleep over, but
hadn't
trying to
reinvented the
figure out
wheel
where
yet.
we are.
Yeah, that's cool. See, Bill's up there and Charles and Richard. You got a good group in.
Another geriatric
Yeah. Like I
Speak a
said,
little louder. Can you
it's-
speak a little louder?
it's the geezer power meeting.
Yeah, there you go.
Half of us probably couldn't even hold a squeegee anymore.
That's why they make automatics. So that you,
Yeah,
all you have to
yeah.
do is hit the button.
DTG, push that button.
There you
Oh,
go.
yeah.
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 I went to the local donut shop this morning with some sample shirts that my son printed for the donut shop, DTG. So it's kind of nice that you can knock one shirt out and take it down and lay it on the table and go, hey, you want some of these?
That's the way it's going, isn't it?
So
Yeah,
did you trade the shirt for donuts?
well, I wanted to. Hey, that guy makes some hellacious donuts. I had to run out of there.
Uh,
Well, listen, we got a good group on. Anybody have a question for anybody else or just kind of hanging in there?
Now renege on something Mark said earlier about gonna profit and stuff. And I've talked to several accountants over the years, and every accountant will tell you, and I don't care who they are, man, woman, or whatever, they'll tell you that anybody that's an artist or a graphics type person they hate them as as clients, because they say they don't know the first thing about money, period. And
Yeah.
they just, and it's true. I mean, everybody I've known that's been an artist or graphics person, that's, they really don't care about it. They're too busy on the artsy side of it, which is, that's their talent. I was guilty of that. I mean, I just sucked royally at money.
Still am.
I was just balls to the wall on trying to produce a product. I didn't care if it made me money or didn't make me money. That wasn't my goal. But I did find out that you do need money to get to that goal.
to buy the next round of supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You
like,
know-
oops. How do we get more ink? How do we get more tape?
So I have a fine arts degree, and one of the things I found when I was about to graduate, I had a particular professor that I was very fond of, and we used to kick around together. And of course, I wanted to be a painter, and he said, "Well, think about these things for a minute. You're graduating with X amount of people from your school that all want to be painters. Think about how many other schools are graduating art majors as well." He said, "And then take a pad and write down the names of 100 living artists that you know. And I'll bet you can't get there." And you know what? He was right. You can't get very far. And I said, that being the case, why don't you tell me this when I was a freshman? On top of that, why have they never had a class for artists on how you price your artwork? I mean, we're probably the dumbest group around when it comes to financials, and no one has ever discussed it with us.
The problem with that, Charlie, is that accountants that are teaching business people about money, they're looking from the logical aspect of how much does it cost for the canvas, how much does it cost for the paint. There's some multiplier in there, figure your time and something out. The reality is art is sold on emotion. You know that. If you look at something, a piece moves you, you'll pay whatever it takes to move you. And what it means to you when you see that. And a real piece of art has definitely got an emotional connection to it. And
Yeah.
that part doesn't fit into the classical accounting thing. I work with tons of bookkeepers and CPAs now doing what I'm doing. And I have to spend a huge amount of my time educating them on the reality of how things sell in the marketplace. It's not a commodity, X for this, X for that, X for this, Y for that. That's interchangeable, buddy. What people buy is your reputation, the emotional value of the work that you're doing, how it relates to them, how they identify with that in their life, how a shirt represents their lifestyle. Those are the things that add value, and nobody teaches that. And I learned it too late because I looked at it from the standpoint of the technical aspect of the print. I wanted it to be an absolutely phenomenal technical print, and that has a certain bearing. But the quality of the art and the meaning behind the art and the cause behind the art is more important than the technical aspects. I think, anyway. That's what my experience has led me to believe.
I always felt that if I did just an exceptional shirt, that it would sell itself, and I wouldn't have to
Right.
sell it that well. And it did work out. I mean, I used to take, Nakonas and similar type shirts and lay them on the desk, and they'd go, pooh, nice. I can do business with you. So,
Yeah, the if you build it, they will come model didn't work really well, and the work
Yeah.
hard, get ahead model definitely didn't work. I worked really hard my whole life, and all I got was old.
But you're looking good though.
yeah, he
Because I'm
lost
not
50,
working- because I'm not working hard anymore.
he lost 50 pounds, and I found it.
Yeah, it's like the COVID-19 was like the extra 19 pounds during lockdown.
Well, I call mine pre-surgery weight, because everybody I know that's either been sick or had surgery, they all lose 30 something pounds. And I go, well, if I lose 30 pounds, they'll go, damn, you look good.
But guys, I hate to say it, but I've got to go. I've got another call here. I only budgeted an hour for this, so
That's fine. Mark, thanks so much for coming on.
Good to
Appreciate
see you,
it.
Mark.
I'll hope with some more of these in the future.
And
Great.
hopefully we can all hook up at one of the shows one of these days.
Hope so. It's coming soon. I know I'm going to be down for Dallas Fort Worth. I know that for sure.
So am I.
So we'll catch some of you down there, hopefully. And
That'd be great.
I'll be there too.
all right. And for sure,
seeing
glad
you.
that. All right, guys. Take care. It was great seeing everybody. Thanks for
Yep.
Thanks.
Mark.
See you,
Good to
Mark.
see you.
Terrific. Thank you guys for being on. Not sure who I'm going to have at the next one, but I will see who I can find. Obviously, Andy is not going to be it, but down the road maybe. But if any of you have any suggestions, shoot me a text or an email, drprint@aol.com. I'll see who I can rustle up. If you don't send me anything, you may be stuck with just me. Anyway, guys, have a great one. I'm going to shut this down. And I did record most of this, so if any of you want to go back to it, it'll be on my website.
Did you record
All right,
Bill's?
guys.
He got the naked women.
Cool.
See you
Thanks,
guys.
guys. I'm going to shut
All
it
right.
down. Have a good one now. Andy, good seeing you again.
Good to see you, Charlie. Here.
Sean,
Later,
by the way,
guys.
Sean, are you still on?
I
Sean,
lost him. All right. We'll
Again?
see you guys later.
Yeah.
hi, guys.
Bye.